Welcome to the channel where we talk about all things Weiss, Schwarz and chill with friends. My name is Liam and today we're going to be talking about BSF 2022 in London. Now, if you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing to the channel where we release Weiss Schwarz content at least once or twice a week. I've been a bit behind on things recently due to some personal issues. But we are back and we're coming back with full steam, so I hope you come and join the community. As well as that, if you enjoy this sort of video, please let me know by hitting that like button, and if you haven't already, make sure you check out my other social medias on Twitch, on Discord and on Twitter. Links are down in the description below. But let's jump straight in. So today I'm going to be talking about BSF 2022 in London, or the Bushy-Road Springfest, as well as talking about just what happened during the days, some data regarding Weiss Schwarz and the top cut data, as well as some feedback that I got from players and some general personal reflections. So first of all, what is the BSF? BSF is the Bushy-Road Springfest tournament, which is a trios or teams of three event, and basically players play in teams of three for the chance of winning some really nice promos. Now, don't get this confused with the Bushy-Road Springfest online tournament that happened back in 2021. That was a one-off thing that evolved into the Bushy-Road Rumble Online, or Bro. So that's a totally different thing entirely. But Springfest is an in-person event for teams of three, or trios, or trios, however you want to pronounce it. And you have the chance to win some promos, as well as get some recognition and some stuff from Bushy-Road. Now, talking specifically about the UK event, which was the last Springfest of the 2022 season. It was held on the 25th and 26th of June 2022, and was held in London, Darksphere in Shepherd's Bush. Now, over the 2 days, about 400 to 450 people took part on each day, meaning 800 to 900 players took part throughout the entire Springfest, making it the biggest Springfest in the entirety of Europe. Now, I'm not going to be talking about Vanguard, Standard Premium, or V Premium. If you want to check that out, I'll leave a link in the description to Yellowcard's channel where they talk a bit about the Vanguard side of things for the event. But on my video, I'm going to be specifically talking about Weiss Schwarz, talking about the stats for Weiss Schwarz, the data, the representations, and everything to do with Weiss Schwarz. So Weiss Schwarz started with 33 teams, meaning that we had 6 rounds of Swiss with a top 8 cut, and we started at about 12 o'clock after all the registration was all done, finished at about 10 o'clock due to some delays that happened during top cut, as well as just some general event issues. 33 teams meant that there were 99 players, and the set representation is actually quite telling. I forgot that because it's trios events, you would expect to see a bigger proportion of certain sets. But again, because only one player from each team can play a set, obviously this is much less than we'd expect, say for example, an individual tournament. So here's a pie chart of the player distribution of set representation. You'll see that some sets that you'd expect to have a much higher representation, i.e. Mushoku Tensei, Hololive, are actually quite small. They're less than 20% of all players. However, think about it in a trios event or teams of three, whereby when you've got a team situation like this, if one player claims a set in Weiss Schwarz, the other 2 players in that team cannot play it. So looking at a team representation, which we've got a table here, Mushoku Tensei, 48% of teams use Mushoku Tensei, nearly 50%. Hololive, 42%. Bang Dream, 27, RWBY, 21, and the rest is all here for you to check out. Feel free to pause and take in the data. So looking at it from a team representation side of things, Hololive has got a big representation just because of how many decks you can build with Hololive. Mushoku Tensei, and we're going to go into the deck breakdown later. Mushoku Tensei is obviously currently in the English meta at the point of this video. Bang Dream is up there as well, so is RWBY. So you can see that, again, those hold quite a high team representation in comparison to the rest of the sets that were played. Moving into the deck breakdown, I'm going to start with our highest representation of Mushoku Tensei. Of the 16 decks that were played, 12 of those were 8 standby. 75% of all Mushoku Tensei was 8 standby. And then the other 4 decks were all unique. We had standby pants, choice pants, 6 standby 2 pants, and 3 choice 5 bar, which I actually built on a stream with a friend who actually then used it in the tournament, which is quite cool. So safe to say, 8 standby Mushoku is obviously the way to go if you want to be competitive in the current meta until there's a restriction list update. I genuinely believe that as a result of this, I think Mushoku might get hit. Moving on to Hololive, we had a really good spread of decks. We had 3 Korone Marine, 2 Korone Rushia, we had 2 Korone Koko, we had a Mikosora standbar, 2 of those. We had then these 5 decks as ones of. We had a Kanata Marine deck, we had a Pekora Rushia, we had Botan Polka Gen 5 deck, we had I Am a Subaru trial deck only, and then there was another one which was a Chaos build. I'll come to that later. So looking at the Hololive data specifically, Coronet was the most used level 1 combo with 7 representations. Marine was the most used level 3 combo with 4 representations. Rusia very close with 3, and then we saw obviously some fun decks around that as well. So maybe that's quite telling that Coronet Marine is the way forward for Hololive if you want to go competitive. But again, we see so many different builds with that. You see the memory package being used for the memory package Healer Polka. You've also got people that run the more green package and uses the Fubuki early play. You also see people just balling that and just using the Suisse early play. You see loads of options here. So again, I do think that this representation of Hololive really shows how versatile the set is. And, you know, I think there's not a single Coronet Marine or a single Hololive meta. There are so many different builds, and I think personally that's why Hololive is such a fantastic set to build with. I'm going to touch base on 2 more sets in terms of the set representation. Bang Dream, we saw 9 decks. 4 of those were choice pants using the Mashido level 3 combo. 3 of those were 8 pants using the Lisa and Tai combos. We then saw 1 choice pants, but rather than using the Mashiro, they were using the Lisa combo. And then also we saw a 1 of Razor Soilin only deck for 8 bar. So again, I find this interesting, Nanami being the most commonly used combo. Some people running 5 choice and 3 pants. Some people going 4 choice, 4 pants. Again, there were quite a variety of builds. So yeah, I think it's interesting to see that Bang Dream is still, again, given how big a set it is, has got these little nuances. However, to see that most people still go for the choice Mashiro or the choice Lisa is very, very telling. Finally, I'm going to touch base on RWBY, which I saw builds that I didn't expect. So obviously we saw the door standby using the level 1 and the level 3 RWBY. We saw that twice. Now, I saw a lot more representation for the choice combo than I was expecting. We saw 2 choice and standby builds with the RWBY. We saw a choice and standby combo with the Pyro level 3. We also saw a 6 choice 2 standby using RWBY. And then we also saw an 8 door build with the RWBY level 1 and the Pyro level 3. And from what I saw, the choice combo really done its work. I think the Schwarz is actually a very interesting card in the current meta. It gets big, it does its thing. It's a reverse combo, which is a bit but so is the RWBY door combo. And I think the choice combo just gets bigger, but also choice is just a better trigger for the deck, I think. Now, if you're interested in the other sets, I'm not going to be sharing deck codes apart from those that made top 8. However, what I will do now is let this scroll down. Slowly, you can pause at any point if you want to see the deck build and the sort of the breakdown of the sets that we played throughout the tournament. So feel free to check them out, and it might give you some ideas in terms of deck builds that you will see. And then after 6 grueling rounds of Swiss, we had our top 8. We had and after the quarterfinals, we saw SEO Supremacy, Team Bonzo, Here for Fun, and O plus T equals Heart hit our top 4. We then saw Sword Art Online Supremacy and Here for Fun be our 2 finalists. And during the 3 games, 1 game ended very quickly as SEO Supremacy had a very bad luck and gave Here for Fun the first win. The second win also went to Here for Fun, with the Mushoku Tensei player winning his game, meaning that the 3rd game became irrelevant in terms of the final result, but SEO Supremacy did pull one back with their Mushoku Tensei winning their game. So overall, it was a 2-1 finish for the finals, and it was fantastic to watch these 2 teams go against each other, which of the 6 players, I personally knew about 5 of them, and I know how competitive and strong players they are. And they all did a fantastic job, so very, very well done for everyone who made that final. And because I've got the photos, here are the top 4 teams with their certificates, as well as their medals and other prizes. Now, for those interested in the decks that were played in these 8 teams, here is some data here with the sets, their final position, and the deck code for each player, including what was A, what was B, and what was C. So if you want to pause the video here and take a look at the deck codes, please feel free to. If you want to as well, check out Weiss Tea Time, where they've got the master post, and the links are also available in her blog, so check that out as well, links in the description below. Now, in terms of tier representation of sets, Mushoku Tensei was overwhelmingly the most popular deck, with 6 out of 8 teams, or 75%, all running some form of Mushoku Tensei. What's also interesting is all 6 of those were 8 standby builds. And another thing as well, all top 4 teams ran Mushoku Tensei.
Kinda telling, isn't it?
In terms of the other decks that were played, Bang Dream and RWBY had 3 teams run it, 37.5%. Sal, Fate Stay, and Hololive had 2 out of 8, 25%. And 7 Deadly Sins, Quintessential Quintuplets, Kaguya-sama, Persona 5, Kanko Collection, and Fate Grand Order all had 1 representation. But that's everything in terms of the data. If you've got any other questions regarding the data from Springfest London, let me know in the comments below and I'll do my best to reply as much as I can. I've got the data from being head judge, so I'm more than happy to share what I can. But there will be some things that I won't be able to share, but if that is the case, I will let you know in the comments. And obviously this event wouldn't be possible for the players that took part, or the judges that were able to support the event, or the tournament organizer, or just Bushiroad in general. So what I want to do now is just read out some feedback from people that have submitted feedback through my Discord channel, and just give some quotes to show, you know, what the community thought of the event. So Noel's Best Girl says, also genuine feedback, it was a fantastic event, really fun and inclusive, the judges were friendly and fair, the players all seem lovely people, I had lots of fun decks to play against, minus max rarity MTI standby, and overall fantastic event and 1000% would do it again. That's pretty nice. And Matt, who's actually one of the judges for the event, said overall the event was run very smoothly, wait time between rounds was minimal, and games progressed very smoothly. My only concern was down to the fact that there was being no open breeze in the room. The staff did try to fix that by providing air conditioning, but honestly would recommend somewhere with open windows next time. And this is quite a resounding bit of feedback that we're getting in terms of the event and the venue, and I know it's something that's being looked at for the next BCS. Megarine Lucas says the event was well organised and well run, however the escalators were and are a massive health and safety issue going into the store and left running constantly and having people to go up and down the stairs. Again, this was something that was raised during the event, and again it did cause a bit of a bottleneck and it was a problem. As soon as this was highlighted, the escalators were turned off, and also for Weiss Schwarz, we basically made it so that people did not have to go upstairs, they could just stay in the area for Weiss Schwarz, and that was decided by myself as well as the event staff there. Overall, I think we fixed that in the long run, but agreed at the beginning it was a little dangerous, and we did fix that as soon as that was highlighted, so thank you. And again, thank you so much for raising that concern during the event. Dryan says, great return to in-person English events, look forward to BCS and UK Open even more now, well-timed event and enjoyable all around, hashtag K&K mirror match, K&K being Kanakari. Steve Yu says, most of the Weiss judges were fantastic aside from that head judge bloke. The rounds were pretty well organised and the venue was clean, albeit lacked some useful utilities, namely a toilet. And the communal toilet closing at 6 PM was incredibly inconvenient. In future, it would be great if the venue could talk to the centre to see if toilets could be kept open longer for the event. But all in all though, I had a fantastic time, and it would have to be my second best tournament experience after the UK Open, of course. Talking of which, UK Open coming soon. As Adil says, honestly mate, your management on day 2 was spot on, and it was nice to have a well-run tournament again after so long. And that was something I was really proud of. I genuinely think Weiss Schwarz was ran really well in terms of how we turned the rounds around, and just the general announcements and things like that. There were little things we could improve, but again, I'll touch on that in a moment. Shorlak says, I really enjoyed the overall level of fun and excitement of an in-person Weiss event of that scale in the UK, and in terms of the running of the day, it flowed very smoothly between rounds, which helped due to the number of rounds that there was. No big delays between any of them, which really helped keep the day on track and not put Swiss late into the evenings. Mocker's Corner says sleeve check overall were constructive and progressive, which has been an established improvement compared to previous BSFs. However, logging the registration was taking more time than it realistically should have, which did make the tournament start a little bit later than the expectation. Venue was very awkward in terms of limited access to basic services, but the vibes with everyone, teammates and opponents that weekend were beyond the world and made it such a good event. Overall, a solid 7 out of 10 from my experience. Muon says, quite simply, was awesome to have in-person events again. For the first big Weiss in-person event hosted by Blackfire, they did a good job, but there is a lot of room for improvement. And I think that's perfectly fair, and again, I'm going to touch more on that in my personal reflections in a moment. Our boy Cobain says, I think the best part of the whole experience was meeting new people. To me, going around and seeing the sights and people is what I really enjoy doing. So having a hobby that helps to express that part of life makes it a lot more fun. At the end of the day, even if I win or lose, it doesn't really matter to me overall because I've gotten a brand new enjoyable experience every time. Also, something Pontius to create. Toquill states the organisation team had to overcome many challenges, from planning to hold 3 Cardfight Vanguard formats in 2 days to all sorts of smaller procedural issues coming up. But I think it was handled quite well for the most part. If there was only one thing I would change, it would be the venue. And Captain Ravioli says, it was super cool to be part of the biggest European BSF of the year. Can't thank the judges enough for the work that they put in to make it possible. But the Love Live players better up their game for the next one so we can show HoloLive fans the real idols. And final bit of feedback from Space Noir, or Ed, who was the other judge for Weiss Schwarz. Overall, I think the Weiss event was handled really well. We had no obvious major problems, and all the players seemed to really enjoy themselves. The player as a whole across both games were helpful and pleasant, and given the awkward circumstances of the current situation, i.e. COVID, were all very understanding and happy to comply with what we needed. As a first-time judge, I feel happy with my performance. A few things I could improve on, and a few things I ought to have revised before the event, but nobody's perfect first time round. We have discussed as a team what we could have done better and hope to be able to provide an even better experience for BCS in the autumn. And I think that's a great summary from a judge's point of view. Thank you so much, Ed. Couldn't agree with you more. And that was all the feedback I received. Thank you everyone for this feedback and allowing me to put the quotes on the screen here. Really appreciate it, and you guys are awesome. Thank you. But now I want to take a moment to talk about my personal reflections about the event, things that I would do differently in the future, things that went well, things that didn't go so well. Let's go through that. So first of all, let's get the constructive stuff out of the way first. I think the venue, whilst it's big enough, the location is not ideal. The venue itself, Darksphere, the staff are brilliant, and I think they did a great job with what they have. The guys were really awesome. Alexis and the team were really great and really supportive throughout the entire event. However, in terms of the size of event that we're hosting, I just don't think it's practical. The escalator and the way to get into the building is just not ideal. The fact there isn't a toilet in the actual venue and you have to use a communal toilet, which then closes at 6 PM, is really rough. And again, the fact there's no fresh air in the sense of no windows and things like that. I know they have their hospital grade aircon system and they've got all of that stuff, which is absolutely great given what they've got, but just not having the actual fresh air from windows and stuff like that and having direct sunlight, it did affect the mood of the place a little bit. They've done what they can, again, given that it is underground, but I do think that for the next big event by BCS, I think we should look at a different venue. As well as that, registration, this is a big talking point over both days. It did take too long, and I think we have to look at the system to see if there is a way of improving it, because there were points where I was helping with registration during both days and the actual getting people checked in, giving them their promos for entering and things like that. The issue was that obviously out of the two events there was always one that was more populated, and because of the system that we were using at the time, it meant that we could only log one format on one system. We didn't have a shared system, which didn't really work, and it meant that whilst one format might have been done and ready to go, the other one was still going through registration. So I think that is one thing that the process for that can definitely be looked into for BCS. Finally, in terms of general announcements, we didn't have access to a good PA system. It was really quiet. People really didn't hear us. So I think, again, that is something we need to look into to make sure that we have got a good mic, a good speaker, so that everyone can hear us, maybe announcement tones or something like, I don't know. But there's something we can definitely do about that. I've got a few ideas that I want to raise with the organisation team ready for BCS. So we'll see what happens. And the only other thing I think needs to be looked at is how we do top cut deck checks. For Springfest specifically. Think about it. In a trios event, you have got 8 teams of 3 people each. That is 24 deck checks. No wonder why deck checks take so long for Springfest. And that does impact the day. You can get all of your Swiss out done, you can do it really efficiently, you can do it really well. But when you get to that top cut and you've only got 2-3 judges checking 24 decks, whereas in a BCS, for example, you'd have the same number of judges only checking 8, it's really rough. So I think when it comes to BSF, the staffing issue was the fact that we didn't have enough. And we could have done with just 1 or 2 more judges, one for each format, just to make sure that we got things covered. And when it came to top cut, we could maybe move around resources to make sure the deck checks were prioritized. And honestly, that's it in terms of my constructive side. Looking more at the actual great stuff that happened, again, I can't really speak much for the Vanguard side of things because I wasn't really directly involved in that. But for the Weiss Schwarz side of things, honestly, I am so proud that Swiss went as smoothly as it did. The fact that we got the rounds done in good time, with little overtime, with little in-between time rounds as well. The fact that we was a whole round ahead of Vanguard throughout the entire tournament was awesome. And it shows that again, it helps the fact it's a slightly smaller tournament. Obviously, that of course is a factor. But the fact that we had 6 rounds as well as Vanguard, we both had 6 rounds each for that Swiss. And we finished our Swiss as they were starting round 6. I think that personally, in terms of my first debut as an actual in-person head judge, is a massive success. And it's also a massive credit to my judge team, Matt and Ed. And also, I think it's a massive credit to the players, because again, everyone was really attentive, everyone listened, and I think overall it just went really well. Another thing I want to cover again regarding the players is how fantastic everyone was, at least on the Weiss Schwarz side of things, regarding the COVID regulations that we put in place. Everyone really understood, everyone really accepted what was going on. Obviously, for those that were exempt from the situation, we made it clear that please make it clear. We also provided an option where we gave a extra card which could be worn on their lanyard to make it clear that they're exempt. We made sure we tried to cater for that as much as possible, but everyone was so understanding and trying to make sure that everyone was kept safe, which I think is a massive credit to the entire community as a whole, for everyone that came to BSF London. And I know that the Vanguard side was pretty good as well. So overall, to you guys, thank you so much. Another thing as well, in terms of the actual staffing of the day, I think it was ran really well. I think the questions that came up were answered really well. Any issues were brought to me accordingly as head judge. The roles that we set ourselves throughout the entire day, and we worked as a team together, me, Matt and Ed, I think we did a fantastic job. And again, without those guys, we would not have been as successful as we were on that day. Yeah, I think overall it was a fantastic day, a fantastic success, and it was so fantastic to see people playing in person again, especially on such a big scale. It will absolutely be, for a first time head judging an in-person event, it will absolutely be an event to remember, and I thank everyone for that. And before I go on to my final thanks, I want to give some honourable mentions of stuff that happened throughout the day. First of all, to team RWBY, who literally came in as team 33, giving us the 6 rounds of Swiss, and then left after round 1 so that everyone had the opportunity to play 6 rounds of Swiss. Fair play. Secondly, I've got to give a shout out to team beta testers, who were 3 players who literally brought decks only consisting of trial deck cards, where one player was person playing Hololive, one person was playing Fate Apocrypha, and the other was playing Fate Ilia, all trial deck cards, and not only that as well, for Swiss they finished 3-3, and if that doesn't show you that you can come in with 2 trial decks, mash them together and do something with it, I don't know what does. Fair play, guys. Seriously, fair play. And a final honourable mention to Minty, or Claire. You know who you are. She didn't come to play, but she was there the whole day supporting a couple of teams. She was collecting data as well in terms of how the results went and things like that, and she was a real fantastic source of cheering and just general support throughout the day, not just for the players but for the judges as well. The amount of time she came up to me and made sure that I was hydrated, as well as other players doing that as well. For you guys and Claire as well, thank you so much for coming. I hope you all had a fantastic time. Yeah, you're awesome, Claire. And finally, just some final thanks for the day. First of all, a big thank you to the Bushy Road team, and actually obviously getting the whole thing sorted in terms of actually organising Springfest. Secondly, to Blackfire, specifically Ava and Dennis. Whilst Dennis couldn't make it there because he was unwell, Eva was there as tournament organiser for all of the events around Europe. I can imagine it must have been extremely hard work, and you're a credit to you and your team for how well you handle things around Europe, especially the ones that I saw in France, in Spain, and obviously in London. Thank you so much, Eva. I really appreciate all your hard work. As well as that, I want to thank Ben, who was the lead head judge throughout the entire thing for London. He focused on Vanguard, whilst I was able to focus on Weiss, but he was always the point of contact if anything was any issues. He was kind of my mentor, and if I had any questions I went to him. And Ben, you imparted some fantastic piece of feedback and some advice to me, and I hope that I was able to do the same to you regarding some situations. I think we worked as a fantastic team of head judges throughout the event, and I look forward to being able to work with you again. Moving on specifically to the Weiss judges, Ed and Matt, you guys were awesome. Again, without you guys doing as well as you did, we would not have been as successful as we were. We only had Ed, who was obviously the actual official Weiss judge. Matt is actually a Vanguard judge. He just happened to play Weiss and know Weiss pretty well. Ed, it was your first time judging as well. I think you did a fantastic job. We've already spoken about the feedback about the event, but overall, like I've already said to you, I think you did an absolutely smashing job. Matt as well, and again, the fact that Matt also, whilst he was judging Weiss, he also had to assist with Vanguard because the judge had to go home, unfortunately. Yeah, Matt was juggling both formats and having to switch between Weiss and Vanguard throughout the whole day. I don't know how you did it. Very well done, very fair play. You guys are actually awesome. Again, without you guys, we wouldn't have been as successful as we were, so thank you for your hard work, and I really, really look forward to working with you both again in the future. For the other Vanguard judges as well, also we had Leo, we had Corey, we had Jason, You guys were awesome as well, and it was an absolute pleasure to work with you guys. Whilst we didn't have much interaction because you were Vanguard, I was Weiss, it was still fantastic to work with you guys and to be able to be in like the briefings and get some ideas from you guys, bounce ideas off you. It shows how great the UK judge team is. A shout out to Nick and Callum as well. Although they were playing during the day, we were short on stuff and we needed help, basically just helping with crowd control and getting people in, and they volunteered to do so with no reward. And, you know, you guys, fair play to you, really appreciate it. And we know that obviously throughout the whole thing, we made sure that it didn't affect, or anything that you did helping us out at the beginning as like volunteers, didn't affect you during your games in the tournaments and things like that. We were very, very non-biased in that sense. But you guys accepted that and you were absolutely fine. It was great. If anything, you encouraged it. So, and again, without you guys, we wouldn't have started as early as we did, even though we started late. So yeah, you guys are awesome again, and thank you so much for your help. Also, shout out to the Dartsphere team, Alexis and the staff. You know, it's a tough venue to do such a big event in, but it did work out really well in the long run. As much as I think you guys are awesome, I don't think it's the right space for a BCS or anything like that in the future. However, down the line, if there's a smaller event that we can do at Dartsphere, I would absolutely love to work with you guys again. You were absolutely awesome, so thank you so much. And finally, to the players that came along, to the supporters, everyone that made it possible for people to attend, thank you so much. Again, without you guys, without the community, these events would not be possible. We know Europe is one of the smaller regions that play the games and things like that. But the fact that you do make it worthwhile having tournaments in the EU region is so vital for us. You know, the community's grown massively throughout the last 2-3 years, even through the pandemic. And I only see it getting bigger now that in-person events are back. And I hope you'll continue to support us. And again, if you've got any feedback for the day as well, you know, some people have already given me feedback in person. Some people give me feedback I'll be able to put in this video. If you've got anything like that, please let me know in the comments below, or feel free to DM me on Discord. Again, without you guys, it wouldn't be possible. So thank you so much. But that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you are new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, please let me know by hitting that like button. As always, check out my socials in the description: Twitch, Discord, and Twitter. They're all there. And again, any feedback or anything like that, any comments regarding the video, let me know in the comments below. I appreciate this video was a long video. Thank you so much for sticking around, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye!